Between February 1692 and May 1693, a series of trials would take place in the colonial village of Salem, Massachusetts. Over 200 people were accused, 19 of them faced execution, and one would die as a result of torture. Their crime? Well, nothing that serious and something rather amusing by today's standards, but in those times, it was one of the most serious crimes to ever be accused of: witchcraft. Welcome back to Tales of History, and for today's video, I'll be telling the story of the Salem Witch Trials. Before I tell the story of the trials themselves, we'll need some background context. The village of Salem was first established in 1626 by the Massachusetts Bay Company, bringing several settlers from England. Other than smallpox, the settlers brought with them their Puritan faith and their deep distrust and paranoia about the supernatural. Life was strict within Salem, as attending church was mandatory. Residents were forced to follow a series of laws that intertwined with the church, and disputes among neighbors would often be settled in, oh, you guessed it, the church. Samuel Parris, who had been elected as Salem's pastor years earlier, preached both the existence of witchcraft and the existence of the devil in daily sermons. Conflicts between the Puritans and Native Americans, as well as French settlers, were common throughout the land, but it should be noted that the citizens of Salem weren't exactly unified themselves. Mixed views on Reverend Parris, inheritance claims within families, as well as land disputes between neighbors, caused further division and grievance. By 1692, the fuel had spread throughout Salem. All that was needed was a spark. The first case of supposed witchcraft came in January of 1692, during one of the coldest winters that the town ever experienced. 9-year-old Betty Parris and 11-year-old Abigail Williams, the daughter and niece of Reverend Parris respectively, began showing strange symptoms, often contorting and having fits. A doctor was brought in to investigate. Upon examining the girls, the doctor came to the conclusion that supernatural forces were at play and that witches who had been sent to Salem were responsible. Let this be a prime example of why you should always ask to see a doctor's credentials. Two other girls, 12-year-old Anne Putnam and 17-year-old Elizabeth Hubbard, began showing similar symptoms as well, and by February a total of 12 girls had been afflicted. Parris's slave, a Native American woman known only as Tituba, was the first to be accused of witchcraft, and she was brought to court. During her trial, Tituba admitted that she had participated in witchcraft, but, most likely in an effort to save her own hide, stated that two of the local residents, Sarah Good and Sarah Osborne, had ordered her to do so. Sarah Good was a pregnant mother with a second child, and she and her family were homeless at the time. Sarah Osborne had not attended church for a while and was in a legal dispute with her two sons over the inheritance of her late husband's farm. These factors combined had made Osborne a Good outcast from Salem. Both women professed their innocence, but during her trial, Good's own husband turned on her. To add insult to injury, after giving birth in prison to a daughter she had named Mercy, the baby died in infancy, and she was sentenced to death shortly afterwards. Before her death, Good stated to the judge, quote, "I am no more a witch than you are a wizard, and if you take away my life, God will give you blood to drink," end quote. Sarah Good was hanged in July of 1692, and Sarah Osborne would die of an unknown illness while in prison in May. These three women were just the first in many of the trials and accusations that would soon follow. A court of oyer and terminer was established in Salem with accusations by children, dreams, and even visions of spirits being taken in as concrete evidence. Several residents, both women and men, would often be accused of witchcraft even by their own families, who often served as jurors. One of the accused was a man named George Burroughs, who many witches claimed was their ringleader. The Chief Justice even stated that Burroughs had been given an invisibility cloak by the devil. Before he was hanged, Burroughs allegedly recited the Lord's Prayer without making a single mistake, something that made the crowd doubt his guilt, as witches were not supposed to recite something so holy. Nevertheless, Burroughs was executed on August 19, 1692, age 40. Burroughs' execution wouldn't be the only time the citizens of Salem would question the trials. On April 18, 1692, 81-year-old farmer Giles Corey is arrested and accused of witchcraft. His wife Martha had been arrested a month earlier and was facing the same charge. When he is brought before the judge on September 17th, Corey refuses to enter a plea. Because of this, he was made to endure peine forte et dure, a torture method in which the defendant is laid on the ground with a wooden plank on top and has heavy objects, particularly stones, added, resulting in the victim being crushed until they gave a plea or died from the process. Corey refused to enter a plea and instead asked for more weight. After 3 days, Corey died, making him the only victim of the Salem Witch Trials to die as a result of pressing. Martha Corey would be hanged alongside 7 others on September 22nd, making her the last to be executed. Giles Corey's death shocked several residents, and many began to turn against the trials, but those who dared to speak out came under suspicion of witchcraft themselves. Despite the number of judges who sentenced many victims to death, and Reverend Parris keeping the hysteria going through his sermons, not all those in authority supported the trials. Judge Nathaniel Saltonstall, who was a Harvard-educated man, had been the presiding judge of 60-year-old Bridget Bishop, the first to be executed. Saltonstall was reportedly displeased with the proceedings over her case and resigned in protest. The trials had spread beyond Salem into other neighboring communities who began to hold similar trials. But like all forms of social hysteria throughout history, this would finally come to an end. After his wife was arrested and accused of witchcraft, the governor of the Massachusetts Bay Colony, Sir William Phips, ordered a new court to be established that didn't allow spectral evidence to be accepted. Arrests stopped, prisoners released, and the trials finally concluded in 1693 after lasting for a year. Of the 20 confirmed victims, 14 were women and 6 were men, 19 of them being executed by hanging on Gallows Hill. Many others died while awaiting trial as a result of terrible prison conditions. Years later, those involved, like the judges and the accusers, publicly expressed their regret for the trials. Samuel Parris faced significant consequences for his role in the hysteria. He was removed from his position of pastor and eventually left Salem in 1697 after the death of his wife, never once showing a shred of guilt for those whose lives had been taken unjustly. In 1992, a memorial was erected in Salem, consisting of 20 granite benches, one for each victim. So why did the trials even occur in the first place? Was there a reasonable explanation for all this? Yes. Well, sort of. In 1976, Dr. Linda Cabral stated that the girls were most likely suffering from ergot poisoning. Ergot is a fungus when in wet, swampy conditions is known to contaminate grain harvests, especially those used for rye bread, which is one of the main foods consumed throughout Salem. Common side effects include convulsion, tingling skin, vertigo, and hallucinations, having similar effects to that of LSD. Other logical reasons for why the trials got out of hand was to settle land and inheritance disputes among neighbors and families, as well as to target those who didn't fit Salem's social image. For example, Sarah Osborne had challenged the town's social norms by marrying an Irish servant named Alexander Osborne, as well as taking possession of her late husband Robert Prince's farm, causing a legal dispute between Sarah and her 2 sons. Nearly 333 years later, the Salem Witch Trials serve as a reminder of the dangers of scapegoating, religious extremism, and mass hysteria, as well as providing important lessons such as the need for skepticism in accusations and the importance of due process. There is still fascination with the trials to this day, and their legacy has lived on through various books, film and stage adaptations, and videos such as this one, with the town of Salem now being a hotspot for Halloween lovers and witch enthusiasts everywhere. I hope you enjoyed this episode and thank you for watching. If you want to see more videos like this, leave a like and subscribe. Happy Halloween!